Hello, my name is Fiaz Ashraf, and here I'm going to explain the important aspects of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, ECMAScript, Bootstrap, and furthermore, I'm going to explain idea of our web application named as the recipe keeper. So let's start. First of all, we'll talk about the HTML. HTML is a markup language used for the structuring and presenting content on the web. We are using the latest version named as the HTML5, which is the element that will allow you to do almost everything you want online without needing extra softwares. It includes the different type of tags uh, from which I am going to discuss the few here. We can use the divisions named as the div. It is a tag which is used to create divisions in the web page. We can use forms in it, the text area for the text input, and we can use the for the styling of the text. We can use the italic tag and bold as well. The CSS. CSS is the language for describing the presentation of the web pages, which includes the colors, layout, and the fonts. The CSS allows one to adopt the presentation of two different types of devices, such as the large screens and the small screens or printers. CSS is independent of HTML and can be used with any XML-based markup language. Basically, CSS is used for the styling of the um, any your web application. There are some advantages of CSS, which are the layout of web pages is better controlled by using the CSS, and the style kept separate from the structure means smaller file size, and it reduce the file size means the reduced bandwidth, which means the faster loading time. CSS also includes the media queries. Media queries are the special syntax for the CSS that allows us to define some more styles that will only be applied in the case that defined conditions are met. We can estimate them to the optional lines of the code, which will only be displayed for the some users or devices. You can get an idea of CSS and HTML from a official website from the w3schools.com. Now I'm going to explain the JavaScript. JavaScript is one of the most popular language which includes the numerous features. When it comes to the web development, it's amongst the top programming languages, and we must know the features of JavaScript properly to understand what it is capable of. Um, JavaScript has a lot of features, but here I'm going to describe the some features that lightweight JavaScripting language uh, because it's made for the data handling at the browsers. It is the portable, the platform independent, which simply means that you can simply write the script once and run it anywhere, at any time. JavaScript is also a prototype-based language, which means it uses prototypes instead of classes or inheritance. And the client-side validations, it is used for the implementing the client-side validations. JavaScript is a interpreted language, which means that a script written inside the JavaScript is processed line by line. It is a functional style, which implies a functional approach. Even objects are created from the constructor functions, and each constructor function represents a unique object type. Now have a look at the ECMAScript. It is a standard for the scripting language such as JavaScript, or you can say the JScript, etc. It is a trademark scripting language specification. Here I'm going to talk about a version of ES6, which was released in 2015, which includes some features like arrows, classes, iterators, generators, Unicode, proxies, symbols, and etc. Here is an introduction of the recipe keeper, our web app. It is a simple application which allows to create recipes by drag and drop ingredients in a creation form. It is a here's demo of the recipe keeper. Here you can see there are the three forms. In the middle one, here is a form which includes the recipe creation, the recipe name, short description, drag and drop ingredients, and the instructions. Here you can create a recipe by adding a name, a short description, and from the right side you can add some ingredients to in it which belongs to your recipe, and then after that you can give the instructions here, then how to make that dish, and then you can save your recipe, and this recipe will be saved at the after saving it will be showed on the left side, where you can say there is a form which this shows the recipe view. Here also mention the demo, the two recipes, the recipe 1 and the recipe 2, which is when you click on that mark, it takes you to the another view which describes the recipe name, the short description, ingredients, and the instructions as well. So on the right side, the ingredients, you can add a new ingredient by from the from the bottom of the uh, form. So you can add new ingredients which are not available before. So you can make a new recipe or add a new recipe which you want. And we use I also work on the Bootstrap with my fellow the Kamal Chhirang, and he will explain the further about the Bootstrap, that both of we work on it, and the other group members will describe the recipe keepers, the furthermore about the recipe keeper.
Let's start with our HTML5 first. This one defines all the page components. I'm pretty sure you're all familiar with the basics of HTML, JS, and CSS, so I won't give you another in-depth explanation of the basics. I just want to take a quick peek at the body. As you can see, I named all the classes and ideas of the HTML elements to represent their actual functions. There are two sections. As you can see, the first section is the title container, which contains the upper section of the page, which is just a heading and a nav element holding a link to the second page, which is the bootstrapped version of this page actually. The second section is the so-called column container. It contains three divs, which will be the columns. Each column holds a so-called card component consisting of a title and the specific contents needed for either the view, the recipe creation, or the ingredients. The divs are turned into columns by the corresponding CSS file styles.css. We kept this CSS file pretty slim because the real styling actually happens in the Bootstrap version. The only purpose of this CSS is to achieve the defined layout and some responsiveness. The logic which allows creating and saving a recipe is contained in the file createRecipe.js. Save recipe is triggered when the user clicks the Save button in the recipe creation form. This results in existing recipes being fetched from local storage. If all inputs are valid, the new recipe will be added and the local storage is updated accordingly. GetNewRecipe is a helper function, which creates a JSON object containing all the information of the recipe that needs to be saved. InputsAreValid is a helper function as well, which helps validating the inputs and displays an alert if that's not the case. The last helper function, clearInput, removes the previous inputs from the recipe creation form once the recipe has been saved.
Hello, this is Sahil Khan and I'll be explaining you two features, HTML template and CSS transition. Here is my HTML template tag. Inside there's an outer div and there are many inner divs. Let me show you. This is the item holder. Then inside there we have title, description, ingredients, which appear only when you go in the full screen mode, and also instructions appear when you go in the full screen mode. So these are many divs. That's the button. But if you look at these items, which I am just highlighting, they are all same because they are all using the same HTML template, which you get by using this content.clone node, and then you get the template object on which you call the query selector, and on that's the outer div. And to get the then I got the inner divs and I set the contents that I needed, the name, the description, ingredients, etc. That's HTML templates. Now let us move on to CSS transitions. For that I'm just adding this class called full screen view to my recipe item holder, over here. Um, Here I set the property transition to all 0.1 seconds linear. All means all transitions, scaling, rotation, translations, etc. 0.1 second is the length of the animation. So if I just make it 1 second, then it will just slow down. The animation will just slow down. And this is the full screen view class that I talked about. Here the width and height are set to 100%. That's the entire screen, full screen, and the z index value is set to a very high value so that it appears on top of all other views. And that's it. That's CSS transitions. Those are the two things. Over to my next colleague. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ludwig and I will show you the ingredients part. As you can see, we can add here some new ingredients. For example, let's say we can add sugar. And it instantly appears here in the view, and I can show you how I achieved this. It's all done by this function, build ingredient node. And here's some basic JavaScript stuff you should know about. It's create element. Here you can create elements and DOM elements. But the important thing I want to tell you about is here these set attributes, because that's not a plain, that's not a basic JavaScript function, because I implemented it by myself and I used prototype to override the original set attribute method. And with these prototype I can now add more than one attribute at the same time. I transfer here array of objects. It's key value based, and that will save you a lot of time and a lot of writing. Okay, and the drag and drop starts here. Okay, as you can see, you can drag and drop our ingredients here in this drop zone. This drag function over here will fire up instantly when the element is dragged, and it takes this data, it stores this data text, it stores here this data in this variable text, and here's everything in it we wanna copy here, and we wanna drag, we wanna drop here. And here on the drop function fires instantly up if we drop something here. So now it's fired up. And here I am copying the elements we dragged earlier. And as you can see, I used the remove attributes prototype as well. Drag and drop is a very basic HTML5 and JavaScript functionality. It's easy to use and easy to implement. At least I will show you how I achieved that the ingredients will stay here, and it's the local storage. I stored them here in local storage in a JSON object, and we can delete these complete local storage, and now we can reload. And here I implemented an init function that if the local storage is empty, it will every time it will add these 4 ingredients. You can find that this init function here.
My name is Kamal Chhirang, and in this video I'm going to show you how we can change this website to this website in just 10 steps using Bootstrap. So you can find the Bootstrap documentation from here, and let's get started. So the first step will be to include the Bootstrap file in HTML code. So we just need to include this part in the head tag as soon as we add that class. So the next step will be to make this two buttons look a bit pretty. Add and save recipe. So yeah, let me find those buttons, and yeah, so as you can see, they look much better now. Let's apply the close class to this to make this cross button a bit nice. And let's see, yeah, this looks better now. Let's make this list look a bit much nice. So I'm just defining that we apply the bootstrap list CSS and make the background color to success. It means green. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so this looks better now. Okay, what make this ingredients new recipe and all recipe look much better now. Looks okay. So where can I find them? Okay, so I'm just defining the background color will be green, text will be white, they will be in the center, and there will be a shine effect. The shine effect is not a bootstrap class. I wrote it. You can find it in the CSS code. This looks much better now. So what's next? Okay, so let me apply the same thing to this recipe keeper title, and let me also add a logo here. So I added some CSS to this logo to change its height, and added some margin. Yeah, so I also added the logo. There is also a shine effect here, as you can see. Just add some hover effect when we hover this list to add some animation and make it a bit nice. So I'm just adding the hover effect, and let's see what happens now. As you can see, when I hover over this, the width get 100%, and there is some shadow and transition effect. Yeah, so that's it. I hope everyone liked it. Thank you.